And good evening to you all. Hello, and welcome to the Mzansi Football Show. Still getting used to the name, but we might find a new name. The Mzansi Football Show on One World Sports Radio. My name is Mpho and I've got Thabang Litera as well. It's our show. We do this together. We're going to try to do this every week. It's a rhythm that we're trying to build, so please do support. The one thing that I'd ask for you guys is to interact and support with us on these platforms. One World Sports Radio on Facebook, on One World Sports Radio on One World SR on Twitter, and on Instagram and One World Sports Radio. And please do subscribe to the One World Sports Radio YouTube platform. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. You can send your comments in if you're watching us live. Just so you know, I'm going to have to put a timestamp on this one because that's essentially what the world we're living in right now. Information and things are moving fast, and games are coming thick and fast in the South African League. That is the PSL. So we're recording this at about 7:15 on Wednesday night. There are 6 more fixtures that are going to happen tonight. We had 2 on Tuesday night, which Thabang and I will go through discussing as we go along in the show. But just to let you know that there are some fixtures that we're going to be talking about right now. And so as we start, let me just get Thabang back in. Thabang, how are you feeling? How are you doing, my man?
Great, thanks, Mpho. It's great to have the PSL officially now back underway. Fans are hungry for PSL football. They're hungry for exciting Mzansi football. And every week, myself and yourself will bring them that coverage in terms of analyzing what's happened the past week and also previewing what's coming up.
Yeah, no, it was really nice to have some PSL, not PSL, DSTV Premiership football, let's get it right. DSTV Premiership football back on our screens. It was very, very enticing. We had an incredible game to start it off with. And that leads us into our first segment of the show. We're going to try to do the show in 3 segments. The first segment of the show is reaction time, and that is where we're going to react to the fixtures that happened in the past week, what's going on the field, and go through that. So let me just put up the fixtures from last week, and then T-Man, just let me know what was the game, the team, the players that surprised you in this first match day of the DSTV Premiership.
Mpho, I'll start up with Kaizer Chiefs. Mpho, as you know, Gavin Hunt elected to go with his more experienced starting 11 for Kaizer Chiefs, which included the likes of Bernard Parker, who has a significant amount of experience. He started all the way back playing for Thanda Royal Zulu, and he's got Bafana Bafana experience. He played with Lebogang Manyama, Katande, and he also started with stalwart Itumeleng Khune in goals for Kaizer Chiefs. And unfortunately, that didn't go too well for Kaizer Chiefs, as you found that Sundowns dominated the proceedings in that game. Kaizer Chiefs did fight back in the early stages. You did see a glimpse of brilliance from Kaizer Chiefs here and there, but unfortunately, due to a couple of errors at the back from goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune, Sundowns dominated the game and won by 3-0 in that game. But the benefit from that game was that it gave us a chance to see the potential of Kaizer Chiefs and what Gavin Hunt really inspired me in that game, in the sense that he wasn't scared to field the youngsters, the likes of Njabulo Blom, the likes of Mashiane. He also gave Ntshangase a chance. And as you know, unfortunately, Ntshangase didn't have too much game time last season under Isvindorp. And those are the glimpses of brilliance that Kaizer Chiefs fans can actually look forward to, is that Gavin Hunt is going to field the youngsters. As I've always said to you, this is the Gavin Hunt who gave youngster at 7 stars, when he started his coaching career, 7 stars back in the day, he gave a 17-year-old youngster called Benny McCarthy his first cap. And you all know that Benny McCarthy now, you know where he is at the moment.
We know where he is, being the extraordinary man he was. What a start to that career there.
It's actually quite funny that Kermit Erasmus also scored a goal for Mamelodi Sundowns in that game, and Gavin Hunt was the coach who also gave Kermit Erasmus his first cap for SuperSport United, as also a 17-year-old as well.
So I look at that game because obviously it was 1 versus 2, and I know you mentioned that Ntshangase felt like it was a new signing, and I kind of felt that Sundowns, because everyone thought it was a statement win, and I think everyone was saying, and the media was saying, no, it's a statement win. and largely it was because they took their chances. And I can't fight the team for taking their chances. But I kind of felt that from a Kaizer Chiefs perspective, they didn't play that badly. They went in there. You could see they went in there trying to contain Sundowns. To a certain extent, they did. The problem was that, and this is where I think Gavin was trying to look to get an early goal. He was pressing them very high, very early, and it was causing Sundowns a lot of problems. Sundowns playing that back three with Rivaldo Kutsia in the middle, and Kaizer Chiefs were playing in those spaces behind the wing backs, Lala K, on the one end, and a lot of the Chiefs attacks were coming in from those corners, and that didn't necessarily translate throughout the entire game, and that was the frustration. Is that it needed to carry on throughout the entire half, and maybe it's a fitness thing, but I kind of felt that Kaizer Chiefs let Sundowns slip a bit in the fact that they're allowing them to come back into the game. Chances were there. Chiefs had their chances. They never took them. And to a certain extent, that's something that they'll have to work on. I love the use of the youngsters. I think there was a point where I think we had like all those youngsters you were playing. They played for about 10 minutes, which is something that you want to see. And it will grow in because obviously we'll talk about the CAS, the ban, the transfer ban in our next segment afterwards. But T-Man, another team that really, and to a certain extent, Sundowns impressed me because I thought that they held their structures well, they absorbed the pressure from Kaizer Chiefs well, and they were able to then build on that systematically to go get the goals. Yes, there were some errors that were made, but for Sundowns to get their players in those positions, that says a lot about who you are. And it's something that the rest of the league's not going to figure out. And that leads me to my next one. We talked about Orlando Pirates last week and how important it was for them to you have to beat Sundowns to win the league. You can't allow Sundowns to make mistakes, right? And to a certain extent, last year, Chiefs kind of lost the league, and we spoke about that, and Sundowns just had to always hang around. In this year, I don't think Orlando Pirates can necessarily hang around Sundowns. They need to actually go out and win games. Against AmaZulu, I felt as though with all the hype around the new signings, everything else, and the way they played against Cape Town City the week before, it kind of felt like they carried that poor second half performance into the game against AmaZulu. They were lucky with the refereeing call. That linesman was, honestly, I don't want to talk about referees on the show, but I want to put it out there that honestly, that was very bad call. The ref made an incredible call, a very good one, to give our Pirates the ball outside the box as a free kick, and then the linesman obviously changing his mind. That can't happen. But on the other end, you look at AmaZulu and you kind of feel like they got robbed because obviously that penalty wasn't supposed to happen. They also received a penalty on the other end that was supposed to be a penalty that the hand and was supposed to happen. So I kind of felt there that AmaZulu was that Pirates were really disappointing. I don't know if you got that sense, T-Man, about that game.
Yeah, Mpho, if you remember clearly, I did pick Orlando Pirates as my title favorites. And as you said, they went into the game with the hype of the new signings. They made some really good signings. Gabadino, you look at they had the top goal scorer from last season, Gabadino Mhango, and you saw some of the new signings. Wade Uster also started, and also Bafana Bafana captain also started. So they made they bossed the defense, they bossed the midfield, and also up front, they also made some critical signings. And this is what we wanted to kind of see from Orlando Pirates, playing against AmaZulu. This is a game which you've got to dominate. AmaZulu is almost in a rebuilding phase, and if you have title aspirations as Orlando Pirates, last season we could have argued that Joseph Zimbauer, the coach of Orlando Pirates, was still finding his feet in that particular campaign. And now he's got the experience, he's had the chance with the bubble, the restart, the preseason. He was able to kind of he look at the new signings, and this was a game in which Pirates should have dominated outright. And as you mentioned, unfortunately, there were a couple of dubious calls, penalties from both sides of the field, and we really didn't see the Orlando Pirates that we expected to see.
But the funny thing is, obviously, we got the Showmax deal with the referees. I'm not sure if Showmax or MultiChoice wants to be aligned with every week referees being told that they're doing a bad job. But it's a tough job, and it's the first game of the season. Referees are also needing to get into their rhythm, so we're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt. But so far this weekend, there wasn't a lot of drama. On the Sunday, T-Man, though, Sunday was an interesting one because I think we said we wanted to we wanted to watch the battle of the newbies, TTM and TS Galaxy. And obviously Swallows coming in and playing against Stellenbosch United. The good thing to note, T-Man, is that TTM's kit problems seem to be sorted. They wore this lovely white kit. Okay, not necessarily lovely, but it was a white kit. It was okay. It was good. The everything kind of matched. The socks, everything was working. They had a full bench to use 5 substitutes on. And also, they seem to have a star in their midst. They had one person missing. That was Justin Shonga. He was in Zambia having some visa issues to come back. He was allowed to go home early last week. TTM and Ngele, is this going to be a match made in heaven? And then you add in the spice of Justin Shonga there and maybe a couple of free agents. Could they be onto something?
We mentioned last week that TTM have a very good crop of players. They've got a remarkable crop of players. And they've also got Gustavo Papayez also, who's also due to come back into the country as well. But you remember?
But wasn't he playing? But Tim, wait, wasn't Paez playing with accountants and lawyers there in Venezuela?
Well, you know my thoughts on that. But yes, initially, I always underestimate some of the signings which come from abroad and stuff. But I think when they do come into the country and you actually analyze them and you watch them, Gustavo Paez is what a lively player. And back to what we were saying, is that TTM have a very, very good crop of players. They've got Totongele, they've got, as you said, Justin Shonga, they've got some really Miguel Tim, who provides that experience in almost like the midfield role, can also play in the back as well. So they've really got a good crop of players. And if they and we understand that there's a bit of management is getting used to the professionalism of the PSL. As I said last week, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And as you said, Paul, you were right. The kit, I actually like the kit. It actually with the lion as well. That's a really good kit. I think we don't know whether they bought an Adidas kit. I think if
Amazulu will have something to say about that, T-Man. Amazulu with the lion, they have something to say about that.
So yeah, I mean TTM. I think we have to give the team the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how they progress going forward. Yes, we saw the new teams in action. TS Galaxy up against TTM. It was a draw. So TTM are really. They've shown some glimpses of brilliance, and let's give them a chance and let's see how they progress in the upcoming weeks.
The one other team that I want to talk about was on the other side of the field. They're TS Galaxy. They're going to play their first home game in Guandebele tonight. And I looked at TS Galaxy and I kind of felt as though, okay, cool. It looks Highlands Park, which is fine because that means you give yourself a chance of staying up. But similar to Highlands Park, if you don't have Rodney Ramaji up front, I don't see where the goals are going to come from. And to a certain extent, that's what I kind of had a problem with TS Galaxy. Whereas differently, when I looked at another team, Baroka this week, Richard Mbulu, and also last night, and we'll show you the results of last night's game when they beat Black Leopards in terms of the score sheet, not the actual videos. But Richard Mbulu looks like a new signing. Last year, he could not score a single goal, but he's already scored 3. He scored a brace last night, and he scored 1 against Maritzburg United. I think for me, T-Man, in this Premier League, you need a striker. You need one guy that in a set piece, in the box, who's going to try and create something for you. That's what Kaizer Chiefs found last year with Samir Nurkovic. He just worked on set pieces and it just happened. Pirates found Gabadinho Mango, who's a fox in the box, anything that's happening. And now we're seeing Tsotsongele for TTM. You're watching Richard Mbulu for Baroka. Jose Ali Meza's going to probably play that role for Maritzburg United. And I look at teams like TS Galaxy. I look at Swallows here as well. I struggled with Swallows watching Swallows, even though I love their kit. The birds are flying in different directions, which is a problem because we're supposed to follow the birds. I don't understand why they're going in different directions on their kit. But I look at those teams, and even Stellenbosch, they don't have a front man, and I think they'll struggle without a front man. And that was the sense I got this weekend. But look at all the other teams. Super Sports got Grobler, and Cape Town City will always have some sort of a threat. They without Kermit, they're probably going to try and they've got Tashreeq Morris up front, which I think is good for them. But to a certain extent, a lot of teams who I think will be in the bottom half will struggle this season because they don't have a frontman team. And what do you think around that?
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there. Is that in the PSL, and Paul, you know very well. Sometimes, and we look at the results of this past weekend alone. It was mostly draws, and and what you need, and most teams most teams are almost. What's going to happen in the PSL, and Paul, as we've always seen, is that it's always quite evenly matched. And Paul, you can be in eighth spot and you need one win, and then you all of a sudden you're in second. That's the nature of that's the nature of our PSL. It's very, very evenly matched. Teams are very defensive as well. So what's critical in a team winning a game? It's having a top marksman in ball who you can count on for goals. And I think you mentioned it quite well there, for that teams have really Orlando Pirates' Gabadino Mhango. Sundowns went out and into the market and got Kermit Erasmus and Peter Shalulile. And unfortunately, they took that from who Peter Shalulile would have played for TS Galaxy, the old Highlands Park. And they've really lost it. So, and you've mentioned it quite correctly there, Paul, that each and every single team needs that someone who you can rely on to score the goals. And because teams are playing quite defensively, they're not looking to kind of they're looking to make sure that defense is their best form of attack. And in that kind of scenario, Paul, you need someone who's good on the set pieces, good header, and those are the kinds of things that are going to break down games in the PSL. Set pieces, teams are they're trying to be tight at the back, and Paul, you need that marksman who can kind of bring a moment of brilliance here and there.
Yeah, make something out of nothing. Which is what Sundowns have built on in their thing, is that they, like, even against Chiefs, a lot of I think the first goal came against the run of play. It was a corner kick. All of a sudden, Peter Shalulile is contesting. He's not the tallest of guys, but he makes things happen. You know, the way in which they got the corner, Tembazwane got the ball. He decided to do his Shikabala type of thing, gets the corner, and it's a goal. Kermit Erasmus, similarly, from a great ball. And those are the type of things that teams are going to look at. And I like Swallows because I think Swallows used a lot of youngsters from the NFD, but I think it might be a bridge too far. There's a kid called Tibedi who I think is great. I don't think he's a striker. And
correct me if I'm wrong, is Tibedi on loan from Kaizer Chiefs?
I don't. He might be. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised because it looks like Swallows went to everybody to try find players. But look, it's what it is. T-Man, looking at the fixtures of yesterday and today, what are you going to be looking at going into tonight when the kickoff's about to kick off anyway? What game do you think will be very, very interesting? I look at that tasty Maritzburg United and Cape Town City clash. Pirates and Stellenbosch. Pirates need to get back to winning ways. Mamelodi Sundowns and TTM. That's going to be a baptism of fire. And then I look at Swallows and Bloem Celtic as another tasty fixture. What if you're looking at these fixtures and you're a fan, what are you trying to ascertain here as you look at the second match day?
The game that I'm definitely going to tune into first is Mamelodi Sundowns up against Chakuma. As you said, unfortunately, we will miss a bit of that game. But that is the game for that. You mentioned it a couple of minutes ago that Chakuma have that good crop of players. They're really, really, if they can gel together, can they bring a challenge to Mamelodi Sundowns, who are the reigning PSL champions? They've got nothing to lose in this kind of game. This is a game where everyone is expecting them to lose the game, so the pressure is off the players, and they've got a chip on their shoulders because everyone is underestimating them. And in that kind of game, Chakuma could be very, very dangerous in that kind of game.
Yes, T-Man, carry on.
No. I was just about to say, that in that kind of game, Chakuma are really, really going to be dangerous. Looking at the other fixtures, I definitely want to see Orlando Pirates again up against Stellenbosch FC. This is another game where Orlando Pirates really has to come to the party now. They drew against
Amazulu. They've struggled with Stellenbosch in the past. I think they've drawn with Stellenbosch in the bubble.
Yeah, they have. So Orlando Pirates, they really have to get the ball rolling in this PSL season. I mean, Chiefs got the ball rolling yesterday.
With an own goal.
We're
thankful. So here's the thing. Here's a question quickly before we move on to the next segment. Itumeleng Khune, what's going on? I tweeted yesterday that Chiefs fans will be very happy to know that Akpe is in goal, and I think it's the first time anybody will ever say that. he keeps on saying he's Mzansi's number one, but we always know that when he makes a mistake, there's an Instagram post that's going to come up with a certain dairy brand on it, and he's going to let us know that he's still number one, or he's taking in his daily content of calcium. T-Man, should Kaizer Chiefs just move on? They've got Bruce Vuma in goals. They've got Akpe. Surely it's time to say, hey, Munna, highly TTM, get TTM, you could go.
You know, Itumeleng Khune is the highest, the longest serving player for Kaizer Chiefs in the PSL. I think he's played about essentially 14, either 15 or 16 seasons for Kaizer Chiefs.
No, he was,
he started out as a 19-year-old playing in the PSL, and so he has that experience. He played in the 2010 FIFA World Cup, so he has that experience. But of late, he's been off form, and we have to kind of acknowledge that as Kaizer Chiefs, as Kaizer Chiefs fans have to acknowledge that. The coach has to acknowledge that, and I think Gavin Hunt gave him an opportunity on Saturday to prove himself, and unfortunately, he didn't grab that opportunity with both arms. And had he taken that opportunity, I think he would have started yesterday. But Gavin Hunt saw that Itumeleng Khune was off form, and he put Daniel Akpe in goal. So I think Itumeleng Khune is on the verge. He's probably lost his opportunity in the Kaizer Chiefs starting 11. I note that he was included in the Bafana Bafana Squad, so that could be a positive for Itumeleng Khune. But I think his opportunities to start for Kaizer Chiefs are probably gone. And Kaizer Chiefs, he probably won't be released. He'll be kept on to kind of to guide a young Bruce Vuma, and you can always leverage Itumeleng Khune's experience, and he grew up at Kaizer Chiefs, so let's acknowledge that. But I think he still has something to offer.
So my question is, in his defense, it's the first game of the season. He hasn't played football like everybody else. His fault as a goalkeeper is that if he makes a mistake, it leads to a goal. So are we being a bit too harsh? Does he have another opportunity in his locker? Do you think Gavin Hunt, by playing Akpe yesterday, was slightly a little bit too harsh? Maybe should have given Khune another chance? Or maybe, because I know the one thing I know about Gavin Hunt is that if you do well in training, you'll get a start. So what is Khune doing in training that forced him not to get the start, even though, and I know probably Gavin Hunt and a lot of good coaches are a lot less harsh on goalkeepers who make errors. They give you have to play like a couple of games before you start leaking, before they start dropping you. So is he not I don't know, T-Man, do you think he's not training well? Because I honestly think on the other side that maybe we are being a bit harsh, but as a Kaizer Chiefs, the fans of Kaizer Chiefs, they want blood. If you make a mistake, they want blood. And so that's where the thing is was Gavin Hunt just a little bit too harsh there?
I don't think so. I think we have to. Itumeleng Khune, he's quite old. Akpe is a national team goalkeeper for Nigeria. Another thing that we also need to consider is that Itumeleng Khune, he was injured for most of last season. Akpe was one of the top goalkeepers of last season. So I think that game on Saturday kind of what Gavin did was that he fielded a lot of the more experienced players, and all of them didn't perform well. And unfortunately, he did as a coach. He opted for the next best thing and gave the youngsters the opportunity, and also at pay. So he wasn't too harsh. I think Khune's performance, if it was one mistake on Saturday, I'd say Gavin Hunt was a bit too harsh. It was a couple of mistakes. It was a couple of mistakes for people in Khune. It wasn't one mistake.
And T-Man, we also forget that Bruce Vuma is a Bafana Bafana international as well. So, you know,
and I think we also need to think long term as Bafana. And I think we're gonna come back to this topic when we speak about Bafana Bafana. But we need to, in South Africa, we need to think long term. And Bernard Parker, Willem Katande, Itumeleng Khune, we're not thinking long term. For Kaizer Chiefs needs to. Daniel Akpe must be the main goalkeeper, with Bruce Vuma being second choice. And Itumeleng Khune still has a role to play at Kaizer Chiefs, whereby he grooms Bruce Vuma. There's nothing wrong with being a bench player. You still are part of the squad, and you still have value to add.
Man, if the transfer window is still open, I'm going. I'm not mentoring someone else. If I'm not getting, I'm going. But let's move on to the next topic, because we're still going to talk Kaizer Chiefs. News off the field. This is the segment of the show, viewers, where we talk about what's happening in the boardrooms, that's stuff that's happening off the field, signings, squad selections, and the like. And so this week's topic is Kaizer Chiefs' appeal against the transfer ban that was handed over to them by FIFA was dismissed by the Court of Arbitration of Sport in Switzerland yesterday. That means Kaizer Chiefs cannot sign a player for the next 2 transfer windows. So that is this transfer window that ends at the end of the month in a couple of days' time. And then on top of that, the next transfer window, that is the January transfer window, that's in about 2 months' time. The only time Kaizer Chiefs can sign a player is in July 2021. So now the question I want to ask, so when I look at Kaizer Chiefs and I look at their teams and look at the way Gavin Hunt plays, team, and Gavin Hunt has a formula. This formula is your back 4 is flat and it's solid. Your fullbacks don't try and push up, but you've got 2 strong center backs. Then you also, on top of that, you build on 2 wingers on either side that can deliver the ball into the middle of the box for either your midfielders or your striker to pounce on. And that has been successful across all his teams: Black Leopards, Moraka Swallows, Wits, Supersport United. He won a title with Supersport United and Wits. And for Swallows and also Black Leopards, they punched above their weight. Does Gavin Hunt have a squad in Kaizer Chiefs that can do that? That he can then say, okay, I can play my brand of football, or must he find another way to get there? So does he have those wingers? Does he have those center backs that are tall and strong and can be threats in the opponent's box?
Well, yeah, he has the tall centre backs. He's got Eric Matoro, very, very good centre back, very, very good at set pieces. Daniel Cardoso has been explosive over the past 2 seasons. And you saw that chance that Tembazwane had. Excuse me. You saw that chance that Tembazwane had, and Daniel Cardoso had a pinpoint sliding tackle where he stopped him in his tracks right there.
Oh, that was so good. Oh my word.
Daniel, he's got the 2 good centre backs. Reeve Frosler is amazing. He can play both as a right winger and on the left bank, more so on the right back position. So Reeve Frosler, he can track back and you can also overlap.
And we forget that Reeve Frosler came from Wits, so Gavin Hunt kind of understands the type of game that he plays.
100%, Mpho. And Reeve Frosler was also introduced into the PSL by Gavin Hunt as well at Wits. So I think on the Chiefs bench there's a youngster called Mashiane who can play on the left-hand side. So I think he can also do well for Kaizer Chiefs as a winger. And I think, let me just go back to the CAS ruling. That could be a blessing in disguise for Kaizer Chiefs. Kaizer Chiefs has a good crop of youngsters. They've got a really, really good crop of youngsters who did well in the MDC last season. And you look at that group of youngsters. You've got Nkosinathi Ngobo, who essentially he was the man of the match yesterday.
He was the man of the match last night. He was at the Under-20 World Cup in 2018. I think he was the captain of the team in that World Cup. He's a very, very good player, and it's really good to see the other juniors that came up as Blom, as you mentioned before. Keletso Sefama, who played in the MDC, and you also had Happy Mashiane, who played in the MDC, and a right back, Lesako, who played high up on the field when he came on against Mamelodi Sundowns, and there was a bit of a good moment there with him and Sefama. Sefama had an open goal essentially to aim at, and he missed it. But the great thing, as I said to many people, is that he managed to move into space, and he recognized that where the space was behind the defense. He got there, the ball followed him with great passing from Mjangase. He just missed. So I agree with you, T-Man. The youngsters are there. And I think I think Gavin Hunt, compared to his other sides, I think he has a great academy system at Kaizer Chiefs with some very good, because you mustn't forget that this team came second last year in the PSL. They're no jokes. They're no pushovers. Yes, we complain about Katsande. Yes, we'll complain about Bernard Parker. Yes, you'll complain about Kune and all of these guys. But at the end of the day, they lost the league in the last 15 minutes of the season, which means these guys can still do it. The question is, this ruling is, as you said, is forcing them to go and look at the youngsters. And I love the fact that Gavin Hunt has used the youngsters. T-Man, another question on this: who is to blame? Let's talk about that. How did they end up here?
Mpho, Man, I mean, obviously I can't pinpoint it, but sometimes when Kaizer Chiefs, it's not the first time this is happening. When Kaizer
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs goes out into Africa and they sign players, we some of the deals that are made aren't quite as clear cut as to what happens. Because it's not the first time where Kaizer Chiefs is signing a player and the team that we signed the player from is complaining by saying that we haven't followed due procedure. And I think the team manager of Kaizer Chiefs, I think it's a recurring theme that we're signing players in Africa and teams are complaining that we haven't followed due procedures. And I
And
think we really need
that's
to.
what Junior said with the signing of Dax. It's Dax who actually played for Black Leopards last night. He started. Um,
And it's
um,
so sad. It's so sad that the player that we signed, who is subject to us to Kaizer Chiefs receiving this negative ruling, is Dax, and he's no longer a Kaizer Chiefs player.
he's
It's
not.
it's it's
It's
it's it's,
unbelievable.
it's an unbelievable
Yeah,
scenario.
but
So
it's the
we
disrespect, as you say, T-Man, the disrespect that Kaizer Chiefs has shown many clubs in Africa. And Foster Juniors from Madagascar said that when they found out that Dax was signed, they went to Kaizer Chiefs and said, hey, this is our player. They say, and was their words, that they heard from Kaizer Chiefs that they were told that they're an amateur club and Kaizer Chiefs does not negotiate with amateur clubs. So, well, look what amateur clubs got Kaizer Chiefs. One last question on this before we move on to the next topic on our news off the field. Will Kaizer Chiefs fans give Gavin Hunt enough time, i.e., next season, a transfer window or a couple of transfer windows where he can sign his own players, like for instance, Shanti, Patuchezo Nange? I'm assuming that obviously now since they were training with Kaizer Chiefs, they'll find out the clubs, but they're probably going to sign a pre-contract with Chiefs, and it's just going to be a year situation somewhere else, and then they'll come back and join Kaizer Chiefs. Will the fans be comfortable or be patient enough with Gavin Hunt to give him that opportunity? Because when we start, because Kaizer Chiefs invariably in this league, I think, shouldn't be top two. They should try and be competitive, but I think the gulf in class will be seen between Chiefs, Pirates, or Sundowns and Pirates, and Kaizer Chiefs. But the Kaizer Chiefs fans can be a lot more problematic at times. Will they give Gavin Hunt enough time to set out a stall? He signed for 3 years. Will have enough time to do what he needs to do to win with this team?
Well, they have to give him time, given because of this CAS ruling. They have to give him time. It's not negotiable anymore. I think we have to be. Kaizer Chiefs fans need to be understanding. They need to understand that what has led to Gavin Hunt's success in the past. He had time with the teams that he had him for. He built slowly. It took him a couple of seasons to win the leagues at his previous clubs. So I think Gavin Hunt, he's a league winner. He knows what's required to win the league title. And I think Kaizer Chiefs fans need to be patient. And I think this blend of youngsters that he's gonna this ruling is gonna be a blessing in disguise for Kaizer Chiefs. It's gonna give Kaizer Chiefs fans a chance to see Gavin Hunt to not have the pressure of getting results immediately. Let him play with the youngsters. Let the youngsters gain confidence in Paul. Of playing for a big club such as Kaizer Chiefs as well, and let him blend that experience together with the likes of Kamabilat, Lebogang Manyama, Same Nukovic, and I think it could result into something great for Kaizer Chiefs.
And Castro's played very well at the top for Kaizer Chiefs as well. T-Man, let's move on to the next topic. Bafana Bafana Squad was selected for their two-legged qualifiers, Afcon qualifiers in Cameroon. First leg will be in Cameroon against Sao Tome Principe, and the second leg will be back here in South Africa. The Afcon's in Cameroon if in 2021. So Molefi Ntseki's picked his second team. This is what his second team looks like. There's some notable exclusions, T-Man, from the squad that was selected to play Namibia and Zambia. We see returns of Bongani Zungu, Tulani Serero, as well as Kamogelo Mokocho and Dean Furman, who plays in League 2 Carlisle. We saw the return of Itumele Nkune as well. T-Man, when you look at the squad, who's not supposed to be? Who has missed out? And it was unfair to miss out?
I'm just going to I'm going to start by saying, we as South Africa, we need to kind of restart. We can't be having nothing against the players who've been playing for the past few years, but we really need to use this opportunity, use this the lockdown and everything as a chance to rebuild and restart with the younger players. And I think this could have been a great opportunity for Moleki Ntseki to restart. Players like Kamokana Mokocho, as great as they are, they've had their chance at Bafana Bafana. And I think this is an opportune time for us to start and build a team around the likes of Luther Singh, the likes of Reeve Frosler, Rashin Direk. I think this we could have built around Tebogo Mokoena. Those are the kind of players that we could have built around them and moving forward as Bafana Bafana. And I think
they're in there. So the question I'm going to ask you, those guys you named are in there. Are there any other guys who've missed out and were unfairly left out of the squad? I can give you one name, Thabo Nodata, who didn't do badly in the Bafana shirt in the games against Namibia and thingy. He's not there. I look at guys like Jamie Webber, who played in that under 20 World Cup last year. He's a youngster that I think should be given an opportunity. He's getting a lot of game time at SuperSport United. Is it time to go and look at the Nkosi Pile Ngobos, the Happy Mashianis, go to Orlando Pirates and go and have a look at a couple of the youngsters that they have there? I think the right back there, what's his name? The Pirates right back, it keeps on slipping. But is it a time to go there? Because Mteki comes from there. He's an under 17 national team coach. He's coached a lot of these youngsters coming up. So like I look at the squad and I realize that you've got Afcon ahead, so you want to qualify for Afcon because you never want. As South Africa, here's the one thing: you should never not be able to qualify for Afcon. It's 16. It was 24 teams now. That means half the continent is playing Afcon. You should always be at Afcon, regardless of how badly you're playing, regardless of who you're playing. You should always make it to Afcon. And so I think Molefi Ntseki's got that issue and that pressure, which is why it was funny that there was a press conference that was had after that Zambia game when a certain head of the organization said labeled Dean Furman, Mokocho, Zungu, and Tulani Serrero should be playing in these squads. But the problem I'm having, team, and this is the thing, the fitness levels of those international players. Bongani Zungu only had his first training session for Glasgow Rangers today. He's been in quarantine for the past month.
But he played at Amiens. He played at Amiens before moving to Rangers.
We know. I understand that, but remember, as a sportsman, the moment you don't keep up your fitness, you lose match fitness if you're not. He was quarantined in Scotland. I don't know if they gave him a ball to run around. I don't even know if his apartment has a patch of grass for him to play while he was quarantined. The other guy that I have a problem with in the squad, Zungu should be in the squad. I'm just saying, fitness wise, I don't know what we're going to see. But I look at Tulani Serrero. He's been playing regularly for in Qatar. I'm okay with that, but I think we do need to move on. I look at Dean Furman. I don't think we should be picking a player who's playing League 2 in England. And here's the thing: Carlisle FC have played 5 games. Dean Furman has been on the bench for 5 games and he's come on as a substitute for Carlisle FC in League 2. So he's not even good enough to start. And this man's a Bafana multi-capped international, and he's no longer in his own club good enough to start. It could be fitness, it could be other things, but if you're good enough to play on the bench, you should be able to play. So there's a lot of things that it seems like there's a lot of voices that are speaking to Molefi Ntseki, because I don't think he would have selected this. Sitebe of Amazulu didn't have the best of games in Bafana colors, but I do think he needed an opportunity again to try and stake a claim, because he played well over the weekend against Pirates. He was very good covering the spaces, making sure that the one-off runners were covered as the man sitting in front of the defenders. Those are the type of guys I thought Molefi Ntseki would bring in, but he didn't. And as you're saying, look, T-Man, I don't know. It's 2 weeks to go. I sit there going, if we're picking Dean Furman now, we can't pick him going to Afcon. So that's one thing I cannot agree to. No Serrero or Mokocho.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you on that one. I think you mentioned you mentioned some quality things over there, Mpho, and I think let me just summarize what my views on what you've said, Mpho. Number one is that Molefi Ntseki previously coached the under-17s and the under-20s, Mpho. So the transition for him being Bafana Bafana coach, why was that done? Why did we go get an international coach? We got him because he had a chance to look at the players while they were young. So let him come up and select the players who he coached at that level, Mpho. That's the continuity and that's the reasoning. A lot of people are complaining post the previous games and said, why wasn't Molefi Ntseki selected as Bafana Bafana coach? I think you mentioned it quite neatly there by saying he was selected because he had the experience of the junior teams. And if you coming from the junior teams, what should be your primary objective? Your primary objective should be using the players who you played with at the junior levels and transitioning them to Bafana Bafana. That's number one. Number two, boys, you said it quite well there. Was that over the past 5 years, the players who were in their prime were the Chilani Sereros, were the Kamakolo Mokochas, the Kermit Erasmus, and those are the players that they had their opportunity at Bafana Bafana. Yes, I think for continuity purposes, even if they, I think we need to kind of let the conveyor belt move and let those players move forward and allow the next crop of players to come in. Otherwise, we're not going to move forward as Bafana Bafana. Chilani Serrero, 30 years old. Kamakolo Mokocha, 30 years old. Kermit Erasmus, 30 years old. I mean, really now.
Randy Grobler's round about there as well.
He's round about there as well.
And Andy Lejali as well.
I mean, really now. We really need to move forward as Bafana Bafana. I think we're moving backwards, and it's not ideal for us as a country. For example, you mentioned it quite well there. Thabo Ndada, a youngster, 25, 24 years old, but you're selecting Dean Furman. Dean Furman is 32, 33. I mean, come on, I mean, really now. I think we really need to we need to take a step back as Bafana Bafana and think about what are our objectives over the next 5 years. This was a great opportunity for us to start afresh, and kind of allow a new crop of players to come in for Bafana Bafana. And I think we can build around Luther Singh. We can build around Thabo Ndada in the midfield. We can build around Reef Frostley at the back. We can build around those Madisha,
Mubara, and Ronwen Williams. You can build around those guys. You know, and we forget that Percy Tau, I think, is also up in the ages. He's deserved to be there, and I think he should be captain of the side.
He should be captain of the side.
As the guy who's motivating, bringing those guys through. So look, I think Molefi's stuck in a rock and a hard place. But
Bongani Zungu as well, I think he should also be there. I think the players who we should build around are Keegan Dolly, Bongani Zungu, and Percy Tau. Those are the players we build around.
Yeah,
but sorry.
If you're playing regularly in Europe's top leagues, the top Champions League feeder leagues like France, like Belgium, and also Scotland, essentially because they have one participant in the Champions League, you should always be playing regardless of age. Outside of that, if you're playing League 2, Tier 2 type football, as you say with the USA, rather than look at the PSL, look at the youngsters and give the youngsters an opportunity around those older guys. I'm happy with the Tyson Tlatwaya because you need to kind of have a spine, and I'm okay with having one very solidified, because he doesn't make mistakes. You know, he's very solid at the back, and so those are the type of guys that I'm looking for.
Can I say something quickly there? I love what you said there. I love what you said there about having players who are playing in top tier leagues in Europe, and that's your Percy Tau, that is your Keegan Dolly, that is your Bongani Zungu. Apart from that, Chilani Serrero playing in Qatar, you can see he's transitioning into retirement. A player like Kamakolo Mokocha playing in the USA, he's transitioning into retirement. So I think we need to kind of look forward and build a team around the players like Percy Tau, around the Keegan Dolly's, players who are playing in their prime in the top tier leagues in Europe. Those are the kind of players that we can build around. But apart from that, we need to look at the PSL. We need to look at the youngsters, the 20 years old, the Nkosinathi Ngobos, the Reef Frostlers, the Sundowns player, Mkhulise. Those are the kinds of players that should be coming in. Makhalwa,
Lebo should be in the sky.
Makhalwa as well. Makhalwa as well.
Yeah, Lebo should be in the
And
side. I don't understand why
we've got a striker as well. We've got a striker who's playing in Europe. We've got Lebo Mutiba as well. Because you know him very
Yes.
well. Tuck in as well. Tuck in. He can also add some value as well to Bafana Bafana. But I love the discussion that we just had around Bafana Bafana at the moment. I think our key theme is Mpho and Thabang must be given a free role. Pressure mustn't come from the top as well. Pressure must not come from the top. Pressure must not come from the top. We can't be dictating how our coaches should be selecting players. Not in. I think that's what led to Sheikh Mashaba's demise as a Bafana coach. He was doing well. He was doing well.
That was a day and a half, man. That was a day and a half when he all of a sudden said, "You're not helping me." And that person knows who he is, who wasn't helping Sheikh Mashab.
Let's not be harsh. Let's not mention any names.
But look, man. You need to. The problem is that I think with SAF as an organization, the guys that run that organization, when Bafana Bafana starts not doing well against teams they should be doing well against, they start looking at the selection and then they start questioning. Whereas Sheikh Mashaba, his great thing about his tenure is that Sheikh Mashaba went to Afcon with Ndulula. He qualified for Afcon with Bongani Ndulula. Where's Ndulula now? That's a very quick question we need to ask.
But Ndulula was scoring. You were scoring.
Yes, he was. Sheikh Mashaba was scoring goals that Tamsa Makabuza before he got fired. And you needed to trust the process that Sheikh's had. It wasn't the best team that he put on, but it was a team that knew how to grind out results. And you need to allow a guy like Mpho and Thabang that opportunity to build that squad, to allow and get players you trust. Because as a coach, you need players that you trust. So T-Man, I think we'll talk about. We've got lots of weeks to talk about this. Bafana's playing in 2 weeks, so we'll carry on talking about it. But to close out the show, T-Man, we've got our upcoming fixtures for this week. That is 2 matches this weekend. It's the M10-8 semi-finals. It's a double leg. It's a 2-leg semi-final. So the first one is Pirates versus Kaizer Chiefs on Saturday, and then the following on Sunday it's SuperSport United versus Bloem Celtic, and then these two fixtures reverse the following week so they can play again, and the winner on aggregate goes through. T-Man, here's the first question, and then I've got another. Okay, here's one question I want to ask you, then I just want to know your thoughts on these fixtures. So Kaizer Chiefs has a home kit that's predominantly with black and gold and black shorts, and they have an away kit that is blue. So in the away game, they'll be wearing the blue kit. But when they play at home, Pirates has a predominantly black home kit and an orange and black away kit. How is that going to work when they play away when Chiefs' home kit is black and gold and Pirates can't seem to get away from the black and orange? What's going to happen there? Will we see the return of the white kit from last season?
They haven't. Both teams have only released 2 kits. Pirates have released their all black kit and also the kit which is predominantly orange with the trim of black. Well, you're 100% correct. The kits are going to clash given the home away status of these particular games. Yeah. What's the answer? There's only one way to do it. There's only one way to
wear the blue kit all the way through.
Kaizer Chiefs has to wear their blue/purple kit, Orlando Pirates has to wear the black kit or their black and orange kit. Because either way, if Kaizer Chiefs can't wear their home kit because it's going to clash either way with Orlando Pirates.
Either way with that. But that's another story.
We're doing a bit of probability theory here on the Mzansi Football Show.
I'm not going to put money on this. I know South African football, things can happen. So your views on these games, what do you think is going to happen in these games? Does Orlando Pirates have the edge on Kaizer Chiefs, and do they look like their favorites? I've seen the other games, SuperSport United, by the virtue that Bradley Grobler can't stop scoring, and you've got Ikram Reyners as well at the top of at the top there, and it's a very Caetano Tembo's got a very nice structure there happening at SuperSport United that Bloem Celtic will probably struggle in this one. What do you think from these 2 games, these 2 ties essentially?
But as you've mentioned, Kaizer Chiefs, they haven't been able to strengthen their squad. Pirates have been able to strengthen their squad with some very, very good crop of signings. They haven't gelled us yet. So at first glance, Orlando Pirates definitely look like the favourites going into this game. What we'll need to see is how will Pirates play against Stellenbosch tonight. Will their new signings start to gel? And if they do, I think they will be the favourites for the game up there against Kaizer Chiefs. Kaizer Chiefs, you mentioned that this is the team that won the league last season. That nearly won the league last season. They lost the league in the last 15 minutes of the season. And I think what Gavin Hunt needs to do for this game is maybe he can use the blend of the experience coming from Parker and Katsande and also the blend of the new youngsters in Port. Because that Nobo was the man of the match in last night's game, I think this is a good opportunity for him to start against Orlando Pirates. And maybe he can start getting that experience in Port. So I think it's going to be very evenly matched, but I see Pirates as the favourites for that tie, given.
Yes, and this is the first derby without the fans. So, as you mentioned when we were talking throughout the Kaizer Chiefs game, that these youngsters shouldn't feel any pressure because there's nobody in the stadium. You know, the Soweto derby, 90,000 people in the stadium, and guys will start to get a little bit nervous. Now, you can showcase your best football without anybody necessarily judging you, swearing at you, throwing things at you, and the pressure of the fans. So I think that's going to be something to watch, especially for Gavin Hunt. And I think that's also a blessing for him, is that if we play a lot more games without fans, those kids will start getting used to it. It will feel like an MDC game. But even in an MDC game, there's fans. So that's something that the guys will be looking for. But in that other game, that SuperSport and Bloemfontein Celtic game, moving away from the derby, do you think Celtic have surprised us? They beat Sundowns. Do you think they have it in them to give surprise for SuperSport over 2 legs?
No, I don't think so. I think as you mentioned, Kaitana Tembo has done very well at SuperSport United. He's finally finding the blend that will lead to some good results. SuperSport United and they've got Bradley Kroblas firing on all cylinders. Recently selected for Bafana Bafana, confidence is high. And you've also got the youngsters from SuperSport who are now coming into their own as more experienced players. You've got Tebo Komokwena as well, also selected for Bafana Bafana.
Those type of guys.
As well. So SuperSport United, the confidence is high. They've got the youngsters who are now coming up as experienced players, and they've also got the goalkeeper for Bafana Bafana. And I think Ron Williams has been solid at the back, the number 1 goalkeeper in South Africa at the moment. So SuperSport United have got the number 1 goalkeeper in South Africa at the moment. They've got Bradley Kroblas firing on all cylinders, and they've also got Mbule and Tebo Komokwena who are doing extremely well. So SuperSport United are my favourites for that second tie against Bloem Celtic.
Yeah. So
Bloem Celtic, on the other hand, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. As I've mentioned, they've also got nothing to lose. They beat Mamelodi Sundowns. Can they contain the pressure that will come from SuperSport United? They've got Lucky Baloyi, who started out at Kaizer Chiefs as the captain of the side. He's really found his rhythm. He's found a team where he can kind of lead the Celtic Chargers up against this mammoth task. It's a David versus Goliath fixture for me, but I see SuperSport United as favourites for that game.
Yes, and the one thing I like about Celtics, and we saw that from last season, they've carried on through now, is that Celtics team have guys who know how to run. They're willing to run. They will run at you. They will run at you with 5 attackers and defend with 5, and they can do that very, very well. Chilumbu, who can lead the line as well. And those are the type of guys that go unnoticed in the PSL. Those guys who are willing to run. And Celtic has always been a team that will run you ragged for 90 minutes. So that's a really, really great fixture to look out for, T-Man.
100%. And what really impressed me with Celtic last season was that the team had off the field issues, but when they went onto the field of play, you couldn't see that before. Here were players they're off the field issues, but these players are playing very well. I would have said that Celtic would have been relegation favourites last season, but
we did.
These guys,
we called them because they hadn't paid their players in 3 months. The first 3 months of the season, they didn't pay their players.
They didn't, but what I'm trying to say is that yes, we picked them as relegation contenders, but they completely, when they went onto the field of play, these players played their hearts out, and hence they are now in the MTN8.
And with all the talk and all the rumors of and all the clubs being bought and statuses being bought, Bloemfontein Celtic still stays as a team, still in Bloemfontein, with no names being changed and nobody wanting to buy them, but they're still carrying on producing results. Honestly, if I was anybody, I'd buy Bloemfontein Celtic over a Highlands Park, over even a Bidvest. I think that fan base in Bloemfontein is very important, and they've built a brand that you can leverage off as a business. But T-Man, I think we reached the end of our show today. Thank you very much for joining. I always love chatting soccer with you, man. It's always enlightening, and you always have your very very good takes that are important. So to the viewers and the listeners, because there'll be a podcast out of this. Thank you very much for watching and listening to the show. Please do put your comments in on that YouTube channel. Put there on Facebook. Put in those comments. We will look and we'll try and answer if you have any questions of what we need to do, and we will take heed of that. But remember that you can interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as YouTube. Please do subscribe onto the YouTube channel. There's a notification button for when we post these shows weekly. We're going to try to do this every week. And so please, please, please do subscribe and share. And please do support us as we try to build the rhythm, as we get you into South African football. The season has started. We're ready. They say Sibabi Zabonge. Please do let everybody know that the Mzansi Football Show on One World Sports Radio is here and gives you your weekly dose of what's happening in the South African game. Enjoy the football this week. Enjoy it tonight if you're watching it, or enjoy the rest of the football this week and next week. And we will meet again the same time, same place on One World Sports Radio's YouTube channel and on Facebook and on Twitter. From myself, Mpho and Thabang, Le Sale